via Oysta. What's up, everybody? You're listening to World Your Oysta, and I'm your host, Paula Sanders, here to empower the dreamers and the doers. Whether you're looking for inspiration, motivation, or just need a little hot, rich anti-pep talk, then you are in the right place, because every week I am sitting down with some of New York City's biggest, boldest, and brightest lights to remind you that the world is truly your oyster. So let's dive right in. I am thrilled to have a true powerhouse in the world of interior design with us today, Vanessa DeLeon. Vanessa was born in New Jersey and is inspired by her Cuban roots. Vanessa is known for her bold Art Deco style and her signature approach, which she calls glamilistic. That is a seamless blend of glamour and streamlined minimalism. She's the founder of Vanessa DeLeon Associates and has made her mark not just in high-end residential design, but across media as well, with appearances on Design Star, Restaurant Impossible, and many others. She lives by the motto, drive, dedication, and determination, all of which have clearly served her well. Vanessa, welcome to the show. Vanessa, welcome to World Your Oyster.
Such a pleasure to be here. And thank you so much for having me today.
Oh my gosh, no, I am so excited to have you. It's so funny how like the universe works, because I just had a big photo shoot for season 3 of the podcast, and I came home and I was just like so incredibly grateful. And then I had this moment of like almost shame in a way, because it's like I created this opportunity for myself, and I, got sponsorship and money together to be able to do all of these things.
But why shame?
And the shame came because it's like nobody presented this opportunity to me. And I'm like, why are we conditioned to be this way? Like, why do we think that opportunities just fall out of the sky for everybody? And we don't realize how many people fight so hard and create their own opportunities and their own destiny. And then I started to learn about you. And I started to hear your story. And I'm like, wow, this woman really had a vision for herself, believed and trusted in that vision, and made it happen. And you were relentless in your pursuit. And you created the doors that you walked through. And I think that your story came at a time where I really needed to hear it, because I was going through this thing thinking that like, I shouldn't be super proud for creating my own opportunity. Like I should have just waited for an opportunity to come for me. And the truth is that they do eventually come, but you have to put in the work.
Right.
So I'm just so excited to tell your story, because I think that it's such an interesting one. So I would love
That's great to hear, by the way.
Yeah, it really did. It came at like the perfect timing for me. And I was just like, wow, here's another incredible woman that's created not just a beautiful business, but is like all over the media, is on all sorts of different TV shows, is now, you're like an influencer as well. So it's like you're just doing so many different things. So it was all in divine time. So I would love to share that. Share that story with everybody. So tell us how you kind of get your start. I know that you start working with your family, and that's how you kind of get into design. But tell me about like the headspace that you were coming from a young age, because you were like, I want to be a star. I want to be the Latina Martha Stewart.
She does her homework. Yes. Oh my gosh. The long and the short of it was I started in my family furniture business. I put myself through college going to my dad's work and making like $300 or $400 a week, working 60 hours. Mm-hmm. And I really put myself through college because number one, my parents couldn't. And number two, it was a way for me to work hard to get what I want. Mm-hmm. I went to FIT and I studied merchandising, and I wanted to be the next like Rachel Zoe, what she is today. Mm-hmm. And I thought, great, this is a fashion. I love it. It's a fashion house that I would love to, I had my, top 3 that I would love to work. And I actually acquired a great position at Ralph Lauren. And when I was working there was like the real life, the Devil Wears Prada. Mm-hmm. And I felt like it was toxic. Women weren't propelling each other to do good things and kind of putting themselves, they were always put themselves ahead of each other. And they were friends, but then when they weren't together, they would talk about each other to other people. And I was an intern at first. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is crazy. They go out, they go out to dinner after work, And I felt like that wasn't the kind of environment that I wanted to be surrounded with. I want women to help each other kind of succeed in the world. And I left. I immediately left because I was like, this is Ralph Lauren. What is it going to be like if I want to go to the bigger fashion houses? So I was like at a weird crossroads because I had just graduated, and then I went back to my dad's furniture store trying to figure out what I was going to do. And people were asking me to come to their house and like pick out window treatments and bedding. And then it was like, hey, I want to like expand the house. I want to do an addition. I want to go up. I want to go out. And I'm like, wait, I don't even know what a load-bearing wall was at the time. Yeah. So I was like, I really need to I could pick colors and pick paint, but I really couldn't.
Taste, but like,
I was like, wait a minute. We moved this wall, the whole house might fall down. So I knew I had to go back to school to learn this trait. So I enrolled myself back into interior design. And I felt like I was a little bit behind the eight ball because all my friends had graduated and I'm kind of like starting over, but not really because fashion and design really are the same thing, right? But knowing the little nuances and knowing all those like details like load bearing and, you know, square inch and feet and how to measure and all those things, even though I did it while working at my father's furniture store, but it's a whole different animal when you're actually building and doing construction. Yeah. So I dove into getting my first clients through my dad's furniture store. And again, I was in college and I'm like, what am I doing? I have to I want to already be doing it. So I ended up opening up my LLC at the time while I was in college, not knowing what to do. And I went to a bank and applied for a loan, the days that they gave you a loan without any, you know, sort of credit or like putting up your first child. So I got a loan and, you know, I got all the all the computer AutoCAD stuff and samples and this. And then I was like, okay, I'm doing this. So I would literally go to clients' houses and open, you know, start with the design stuff and start like creating plans. But then I was like, I want this to happen faster.
Right. But hold on one second.
Yeah.
So you basically went to school, got your interior design.
Fashion first.
Right, right. When you went back.
Yeah.
Got that degree. And then you were like, I'm just going to open up my own shop.
I actually didn't even get my degree. I was in school and I'm like, I need to start working. And I opened up my LLC while I was in school.
So do you think that it was money driven or it was more like
ambition?
Ambition.
Yeah, I just wanted to get ahead.
You were confident, man. Like,
you're rolling the dice. Yeah, you have nothing to lose. Well, yes and no, besides all the loans and stuff. Yeah. But and by the way, I lost and I've fallen and I've gotten up plenty of times. There's a lot of trials and tribulations throughout the way of 26 years of doing what I do. But the short of it is, you know, it was obviously tough. But at the same time, when I was doing these little jobs, it didn't feel fulfilling enough. And I was like, wait, maybe I want to do like design, TV, and be a personality and be. At the time, there was no such thing as influencers or, you know, whatever. But why can't I be that multi-hyphenate? I want to do it all, right? Yeah. So when I was working, I had like not an assistant, but a girl that would help me. And she's like, "Did you see that thing for HGTV? It's like a new design show." And actually, before the HGTV, I was obsessed with The Apprentice season 1. So I was like, I'm going to get on season 2 Apprentice, whatever I do. So I enrolled. I made it out of 500,000 contestants to be on The Apprentice. They flew me out to Los Angeles, did all this crazy testing. At the time, NBC and Mark Burnett was, you know, they had endless budgets.
Right.
So I was with Bethany Franco. Her and I had the same breakfast schedule, lunch schedule, and dinner. They took your phones away. You were basically quarantined. And
before we knew the word.
Before we knew the word quarantine, right? But we were quarantined. And 7 days, I passed every test, every single day. Background checks, like ink block tests, like every possible test. I swear to God, I was like, when is the gynecologist coming in? Because
oh, shit.
It almost felt like it was going to go that far.
Wow.
But they had endless budget. And then I finally sat down the last day with Mark Burnett and all his executives behind him. And it was just a group of girls. It was Bethany Franco and then like the rest of the group. And they were like, hey, what would you think about going on a Martha Stewart Apprentice? And I'm like, holy shit. Can I say shit?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I was like,
let it rip.
Yeah. I was like, holy shit, she's in jail. It was slated to run in September.
Okay.
So I'm like, wait a second.
She'll be out.
She's going to be out. They're letting her out. And obviously, they couldn't tell us. But I already knew what was happening. And I'm like, hell yes, because I've always postured myself to be that next Latina Martha Stewart. So I'm like, this is like serendipitous. This is meant to be. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when I was in that room with the rest of the girls, they were all like, Bethany Franco was talking about the other girl because she had big boobs, and it was like this whole thing, right? And I'm like, excuse me, Mark, can I start, please? Because these women can't get it together. And he looked at his cue cards. He's like, Vanessa DeLeon? And I said, yes, I'm an interior designer. I've been in business for 5 years, or whatever it was. And I thought I did so well. As soon as I walked out, my PA that was attached to the mic and stuff, he was like, oh my God, you did amazing. I go to my room. Hours later, I get a knock on the door that was different from the knocks on the door that I'd been getting previously. Yep, one of those. And I'm like, shit, I didn't get it. I opened the door and he's like, I cannot believe it. I'm so sorry, but like, I am shocked. And I didn't know that was the beginning of reality TV, so they're playing up on the drama. So all those women made it on the Martha Stewart first season Apprentice. So it was kind of one out at that point. So I get back.
But you liked the cameras. You were like, I like this.
Well, there was cameras there, but to be honest, I was so... My motivation was that Mark Burnett sitting there with ripped jeans on and no shoes and all these executives behind him. And I'm like, I'm in this room. I'm Hispanic. I came from a trailer park. I'm like, like the fact that I'm in this room with the executive and Mark Burnett sitting like just an arm length away, I felt like I made it.
Now that I'm hearing that you said you're Cuban and from a trailer park, I think we skipped a huge part. I made a big mistake of not asking you to go all the way back.
Yeah.
Wait. So tell me.
So it wasn't a trailer park. It was 2 trailers. It was 3. It was my trailer, my dad's dog trailer, and then there happened to be a trailer that sold birds. Like that was kind of like a half a mile past ours.
Okay.
It wasn't true trailer park, but we lived in a trailer. Like it had wheels and it was on stilts, but the wheels were taken off and then it was like on stilts. Yeah.
Wow. So very humble beginnings.
Yeah.
No real interior design.
No. The only interior design about the trailer park is that it had a cool thing that connected the dog trailer and our trailer, and that was pretty much it.
Wow. That's crazy.
The view, because it was on the Hudson River, so we did get to see Manhattan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so you could dream.
Yeah.
You could dream.
Yeah.
I love that.
So when I went back... Again, I'm making the short version. So when I went back home, I was completely bummed. And then that's when my assistant was like, hey, there's a show called Design Star Season 1. Did you see that? I'm like, forget it. I'm not doing this reality TV. It's all bullshit. There's no way I'm going to do this to myself again. So I submitted the same tape that I submitted to The Apprentice. And they call me back and they're like, hey, you made it. And I'm like, made what? I'm like, what about all the tests and stuff? And it's HGTV, so they don't have big NBC budgets. They're like, yeah, pack your bags and moving to the Upper East Side. And I made it on first season Design Star.
And how did that change everything for you?
That was a moment where my business, as my career took a totally different spin into... Now agents are calling me. I'm getting gigs for like small commercials and design stuff. And
still no social media, or
it was Facebook at the time.
Okay.
It was MySpace before, like going into The Apprentice. And then I think it was Facebook still. And then Facebook while I was getting into, which I ended up getting a huge following after that on Facebook. But then my Facebook got hacked years later. But it's fine. But
and then it wasn't like, but it doesn't even matter if you had a huge following on Facebook. It didn't necessarily mean that they moved over to Instagram with you.
No, that's true.
Two completely different platforms.
And you honestly really didn't really monetize back then on it, so it wasn't really a big thing. But that was the opportunity that people and agencies came to me wanting to represent me on the media side of things, and then that's when the brand started attaching themselves to the media end of things. So that's when my career really took off.
Yeah. So what was the concept of the Design Star show?
Yeah. So it was 12 designers, and we essentially had to make over this townhouse and other spaces around New York City, but the townhouse was like the first challenge. I won the first challenge, and I was out at the 4th.
Okay.
So do you know David Bromstead from HGTV? He still has a show. It's called something Lottery, $1 Million Lottery or something. So he was my roommate. And we became very good friends. And from there, that's when all the doors started opening up. Yeah.
And now you come off of this show, are you like, okay, now I have the bug. I want to become like an interior designer, but someone that really is more media focused?
Yeah.
Or are you like, okay, I really want to come home now, take this opportunity where I have all these eyes on on me and hone in on the business and really like crank it out?
All the above.
Okay. So
all the above.
Tell me, like what was that the next 2 years like?
So I needed to leverage that opportunity,
Yes.
right? Because I didn't know if that was ever going to come again, or, for me, that was like, Vanessa, this is I had the vision boards. I would put things up on the vision boards, and these were the things that I would put up. I'm like, all right, now you have it. What are you going to do with it?
Right.
So
Which is terrifying.
It is, because now the ball's in your court, and you got to be such a great dribble. You have to dribble that ball. You got to make the shots,
Yep.
and you have to play defense and offense, and you have to kind of be available for everything that is thrown at you. That's another thing too. I would always make myself available, whether it was an audition for a commercial, or if it was a new client that, I had to go to their house in Long Island and drive an hour and a half away. I had to do what I had to do. And I would just, anything that was thrown at me, I would make sure something would stick, because I always thought my whole, when I was growing up, I never wanted to be where I was back then. So I was always fearful. And that's one thing that I'm trying to like really change until this day. I'm always fearful of it could always go back. And knowing that, it just makes me, again, it's my triple D model is drive, dedication, and discipline. It makes me really hone in on those 3 words and just make sure that I'm always focused.
Yeah.
And I never feel like, I can chill now, because I don't have that. It's not innate. It's not inside of me, because I'm always like, the fear is always in the back of my head.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring up the word fear, because it's my parents are both entrepreneurs. They own dance schools. So I grew up in
you were dancer,
I grew up in the dance world, and they both have very successful careers, and I never wanted or needed for anything in my life, but I always felt that they both operated out of this fear that one day everything was going to be taken away from them. And as I grew up, I always said, like, I will always work for the man. I never want to work for myself, because I know confidently that when I put my head on the pillow at night, if where I work it was to, go on fire, I have the skills that I need to go work somewhere else. Whereas opposed to if one of their dance schools was to, it was all to be taken away, they didn't really have
a fallback.
Yeah, they didn't go to college. That was back in a different time where you didn't go to college. Like neither of them went to college. They went to the school of life, and they opened up their studios when they were 19 years old. And thank God it all worked out. But it's like just interesting how that, even though like we had a beautiful home, we went on vacations, like I didn't want or need for anything, but it still really had this impact on me that I just, I never wanted that like all compensating career.
Right.
But now I'm in my, I just turned 37, and now like I want everything. I want it all.
You want it all.
I want,
okay,
yeah. I'm like,
right?
I want the big job, and I want the passion project, and I want the passion project to like supersede the big job one day, and like, and now I want to like be me again, and like put myself in the limelight, and like I was doing until I was 25, and stop building other people's dreams. I mean, still build their dreams, but think about mine too.
Right.
It's like
absolutely.
But fear is it's an interesting thing, and I think it's what motivates a lot of us.
It motivated me, and it still does to this day.
How did you come up with the 3 Ds? Like, is that just something that you started to like ruminate on, or?
So I would always, when I was designing or at work, I would always try to do this like little mantra. And what was my mantra? What was my thing? And I was like, I'm driven. And then it was like, because I have drive. I have drive to do that, so I'm driven. I have to be dedicated to what I do. I have to do it day in and day out. Drive, dedication, and discipline. And dedication, like I love what I do. I'm dedicated to my craft. So I would always say those things. And then I started to kind of play on words. And then when I would speak at any engagement, I was like, it's all about the 3D model. And it's not, bra size. It's drive, dedication, and discipline. And, if I'm speaking at a school, the kids would be like, bra.
Like I just did like an idiot. Bras will always be funny, right? Bras, underwears, farts, they're all...
If my son was here, he would love this conversation.
They're all funny. They're all funny things. And I know that like for you, a big part of what you do, because you just mentioned it, is give back, and you speak at FIT. I know that you like have them at your space. Like, how do you find the time to continue to like focus on those things and nurture those things, but also grow your business? And we'll talk about all the other things that you're doing now too.
So this is how I see it. When people ask me, well, how do you do it all? How do you manage to do it all? I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a business owner. I have products. I develop. I have friendships, and all those things matter to me.
Yeah.
So I make sure that I always say to myself, because you could be tired, right? You could do. I want to say no to so many things. Like every day, I want to be like, no, I don't want to come. Coming here, as excited as I was, I'm like, oh, the podcast. But then I got to meet a friend, and it's like all these things. It's like you're so tired, but then when you do it, you're like,
energized.
what was I thinking, right?
I know. I'm
so
the same
it's like you have to just like, I'm healthy and I'm able. Why not?
Yeah.
Because someday we're not going to be on this earth, and why? We didn't want to do certain things because we're tired. We're going to sleep when we're dead. And that's how I kind of live my life.
Wow.
So when I get up in the morning, I work out, and then the rest of my day I'm grinding, and then I pick up my son in between, and then I take him to wrestling, and then we do things together to have mommy and telly time. And then from there, I'm going to meet a friend for dinner. And then and you keep on and on and on, and you just make sure you check all those boxes all the time, and then just be a present wife. And I also cook, and I clean, and I do all those things. And people ask me how? By knowing that you have an able body to do it. That's all you have to say every day.
Well, I think you're also like living in passion and in love.
Yeah.
You clearly love the life that you built for yourself.
Right.
And I think that it is easy to, well, listen, nothing is easy.
Nothing's easy.
Nothing is easy.
It's, like I said, it's hard. It's every day I'm like, oh, I got to do this, and I got to meet a client. And you have those moments of like, oh my God, what a drag. Or when you're doing something that, maybe it's like a tough client and you're at a meeting, you're just like, okay, I can't wait this I want this to be over with. You start, in your head, but then when you're done with it, you're like, it's done. Yeah. And it's like one thing I checked off, and you're just so proud every day that you check off these things. Yeah. And I make sure that I schedule myself. So I actually have, every day I put a timeline together from 6 to 7, I'm going to, put in a workout. Now I'm doing like the rebounding. I'm doing the jumping on the trampoline thing.
Oh, that's fun. Where do you do that?
At home. I bought it on Amazon. It was the best thing I ever spent money on.
I did that during COVID.
They have it at Casa, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
And there's some free classes. I'm like, I am totally signing up. Because I don't even know what I'm doing.
It's called
but
The Nest.
Yeah.
So I did it digitally all through COVID.
It's great.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like it gives you energy, but it all opens
great for lymphatic
Yeah.
drainage
So
as well.
I'm like, I'm totally into this right now.
Yeah.
And I intermittent fast, so I make sure I have an energy. The only thing I'm trying to weed out is coffee, because as much as it's a booster in the morning, but then you kind of slow down. So I don't want to, there's certain things that, I have my vice, and that's my only thing.
It's my only vice. That's why I refuse.
Same.
I don't drink alcohol anymore.
Me
so
neither.
I'm like, you know what?
I barely drink.
Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, it's like you're able to do all these things. Just check them off your list, and like every hour I have like what I'm gonna do. And if I don't make it within that hour, I just make sure like down the line I get it in somewhere.
Yeah. So you time block.
Yeah, I do time block. Yeah.
And it's like tremendously helpful.
Oh my God.
Like it's like
and you
changed
feel
my life.
so accomplished. Yeah. And just like checking it off or like crossing it out. You're like, yes. Cross out.
Done. Next thing. I know.
So
I'm like so that way. So kind of walk me through what Vanessa DeLeon Associates, what's the look? What's the feel? Like when we walk into one of the homes that you've decorated, what are we supposed to be feeling? And what are we looking at?
So whether it's a home, commercial space, or a hospitality space, it has a sense of minimalism, but with a glamorous kind of spin. And it's, I coined my style. It's called glamilistic. It's a fusion of glamour and minimalism. It's 1920 meets 2040. So it's really cutting edge, but it's also, there's hints of feel good, something luxurious, whether it's a crystal or even in a bachelor pad, I can make it look glamouristic without feeling too feminine and make it more bachelor, but with a spin of something, whether it's velvets and elements that are used to kind of layer. That's my style.
Yeah.
There's a little touch of Art Deco. I'm really inspired by my Cuban roots. So you'll see like either a geometric pattern or an Art Deco kind of styling to a pattern, but everything else is super minimal.
Yeah. I love that. It's like my dream to my next apartment. I want to work with an interior designer. Like I love to look at beautiful homes, but I am not good at it.
Right.
Like I'm like, I'll go for all white and a little bit of marble as long as it looks clean. But it's like my dream to work with a interior designer.
It's all the layers.
It really is. It's the different levels of light. Like That is what I would love to ask. Like, what makes a house a home for you?
Light levels are important.
Light levels.
Yeah. Because if you walk into a space, whether it's a hospitality space, a lobby, think of the lobbies you walk into, and the ones that are the most sexy to you are never 5,000 or 6,000 Kelvin, the light level. That's super white, right? When you walk into those spaces, it's 27 or 3,000 at max. And then there's a mood changing component to it, right? Whether it's a sconce that's more like iridescent, like a kind of like a yellowish, you know, incandescent type of color. It's never like this white glaring. But then when you go into a doctor's office, it's 5,000 Kelvin and they need to see, or if they're doing a root canal, they need to see what's, in there. Or you're getting an operation that has to be like focused light, 5,000. It's like stark.
Right.
And when you're in those spaces, you feel like so scared, right? When you're in a space of 27 or 3,000, you feel it moody and swanky and it feels good. So I think light levels is everything, and then texture and layers. Because that's what makes the space look mostly curated, is all the layers and the textures and really designed. Like I can tell when somebody has designed their space, and nothing wrong with it. There's many friends of mine that design their space and they're beautiful, but I can also tell when a designer had a touch, because there's just another layer of something in the space that really, it's the devil in the details.
Yeah. What are some of the details that you're obsessed with?
Textures of walls, different finishes.
So like
wallpaper, wall finishes, whether it's a lime wash or a textured wall or, grass cloth, how the grass cloth plays with the rest of the fabrics in the room. Are you using chenilles or velvets? Are you using layers of leather with, distressed leather with soft? How are those juxtapositions of things look in a space together but still look so harmonious at the same time?
Hey, my pearls, did you know that electrolytes, creatine, and collagen are the ultimate hack for looking and feeling amazing? That's why I am so excited that we have partnered up with Harlow. Harlow is a fab 3-in-1 performance-enhancing drink that is packed with natural electrolytes for hydration, collagen for radiant skin and joint support, and creatine to fuel your muscles and boost your cognitive function. Plus, it's sugar-free, gluten-free, and it tastes amazing. So I know what you're thinking. Creatine? Really? Yes, really. As women, we often overlook or are scared of creatine, but it's crucial for boosting our energy and endurance. It also plays a vital role in muscle recovery and helps maintain our overall strength as we age. As a woman juggling a full-time job, a podcast, and a million things in between, I do not have time to waste feeling tired, sore, or not at 100%. And that's why I never miss a day. And I can genuinely say that Harlow makes a difference. Whether I'm sipping it after solid core or enjoying it as a pick-me-up during a busy afternoon, Harlow keeps me hydrated, glowing, and ready to tackle whatever the day brings my way. To hydrate and elevate your wellness with me, visit www.drinkharlow.com and use the code Oysta20 for 20% off of your first order. That's www.drinkharlow.com and use the code Oysta20 at checkout for 20% off. This episode is brought to you by Stellar,
a global marketplace where you can buy and sell exclusive assets with just a few taps. I'm Ella, your new best friend, and I'm here to show you around. When you first open the app, you'll land on the Discovery feed. Up top, there's our search bar. Use it to hunt down your dream experiences. And if you need to narrow it down, our filter feature has got your back. While scrolling through the Discovery feed, if you see something you like, tap on a listing for more details. Need a hand? Just look for me, and I'll be right here to assist you. Thanks for joining us on Stellar. We can't wait to see what you discover.
How can somebody that lives in New York City, most of us are renters, right? So how can we take these white boxes and make them more homey?
That's a great question. There are wallpapers now that are peel and stick.
Peel off, I have you.
And actually, I think this is it too here. Very easy to peel off and stick on, and they don't destroy the walls as long as you put the walls back into the white paint that they came with. Layers of canvas, believe it or not. If you just buy canvas from like a Michaels or whatever, buy layers of canvas, paint them, and then do color blocking on the back of a sofa. So it just looks like a layered kind of colorway. And you color block like that. So you can put, if you like have like a beautiful emerald green something, you want emerald green block with a pillow to match, and then a throw blanket, that's black, and then gold accents on the canvas. Those are all those layers of blocking that looks really cool, looks three-dimensional, and you're not really doing anything to the wall but putting a tiny nail in it.
Yeah.
And you could also hang up canvas with 3M like stickies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've also changed light fixtures.
Light fixtures are always the dead giveaway too. Yeah.
And that, like, to me, completely changes the vibe
For
of
sure.
the space.
For sure.
I didn't do it in this apartment, but I did it in my last apartment because it just, like, the space needed it.
Yeah.
But that, to me, is, like, biggest game
Yeah.
changer.
Yeah. And it is because you can tell when something's like kind of like a spec apartment. And then when you kind of scale it up a little bit, that change of a light fixture, and then you can take that with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Mine's all in my mom's garage. She's like, when are you
Thanks,
ever
Mom.
going to, yeah, she's like, when are you ever going to come back and get, like, all of these light fixtures? I'm like, just put them up in your next place. Just take them.
That's funny.
She's got all the rejects from all my apartments.
But you never know, like after a while when you collect it and you're like, oh, I kind of like this one from there. And then when you get your place, you can kind of see what it all fits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 100%. So you have this beautiful business that you've built. You also are nurturing and working on, the different TV shows that you've worked on. Then social media comes to play. Yeah. So when do you decide to like really focus in on this? Did you see it as an opportunity right away? And how did you start to begin to build and grow?
So how I got my following really is I would end up tagging. So I did a show with Terry Crews called Terry Crews Saves Christmas.
Okay.
And it was on the CW. It was such a great show. And I love Terry
one.
Crews. We're friends till this day. He's like salt of the earth guy. And when I was on the show, I would tag him, he would repost me, and it was always like I would get his followers and then repost his thing and then the CW and then just reposting and repost. And I knew that, hey, I'm getting followers. Let me leverage this.
Right.
How am I going to? So then I would.
They don't stay if you don't do something that's interesting.
So I would hashtag. I would do all the things that I didn't even know really worked, but I figured this is part of it. So let me just experiment. And then I was on a show with Ice and Coco. And the Ice and Coco show became a thing. I would retag her anytime that I was on any like Good Morning America or, whatever show, whatever daytime show. I would make sure that I tagged all the talent.
Right.
Maybe one or two would repost me, maybe not. But then I would capture the talent, whoever posted me, there would be followers from them. And then I would just get a following. And I started seeing like this pattern. So I just started leveraging that.
Right.
And it worked. And I'm so totally like I've stayed stagnant right now. So I haven't figured out this new algorithm thing that's happening right now. So
who has the time?
Right. And I'm like, you know what? I have the business already. Just doing what I do. If it comes naturally, it comes naturally. And that's, that's it.
But do you create a lot of content in your spaces?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all my projects, I'm always posting reels and doing things.
Right.
But now I have 7 ways of the way that my business creates revenue. Mm-hmm. And one of them is through posts. So, the brand ambassadorships, the one-off business deals with the brand that, I'll charge to post and do a reel
like
to
a brand
post.
deal.
Yeah. And then I have my licensing, I have my own products, and then I have the design, and then I have the project managing end. Because you could just buy the design, you don't have to go through the project managing. So it's a whole separate thing. And then we're the project managers. So like there's 7 means of income that come through my office. And then again, leveraging all of them, right? Mm-hmm. So if I'm going to do a brand deal with Neolith, which is a beautiful countertop company that I'm working with, I'm going to tag all the kitchen stores that maybe do deals with them. And like, that's how you start. And then they know who you are. And then they're like, who is this girl? That's the brand ambassador. Oh, they reposted me because they did a collaboration. Now I have all these followers from Spain. So it's just like, it's like a domino effect after that.
And do you feel that it's been worth it to spend time and energy on the Instagram?
You have to. It's totally worth it because the brands, this is their new magazine advertising, right?
It's true.
So this is where they're going. They're looking for the influencers. And, there's also all types of influencers, and the micro, the macro, all the heavy hitters. And you have to also know where you're at. Mm-hmm. And some of these deals, some of them like the macro, like under 10, because they're engaging with the people more often. They're engaging with, the products a little bit more because they have time to answer faster and stuff and things like that. But I make sure I'm on top of it. It's just me and another girl in my office, and we're the ones that are doing it. So it's authentic. Yeah.
Now, I'm interested to know, because somebody like you seem like not a control freak, but I
am a control freak. Can you tell?
Yeah, a little bit. With social media, you have absolutely no control. All you can do is put the best content out there, but you have no control of how it will perform.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
I don't get fixated on that stuff anymore because
How long did it take you to get unfixated?
I think because my business is doing well.
Yeah.
Like it's not, if this is my only focus,
Right.
it would
you
drive
go
me
nuts.
crazy,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Same.
So I'm busy at work, so it's fine. It's just like another thing. It's like when that royalty check comes from a tile company that I'm working in and I'm like, oh, wow, I got a royalty check this month. That's fun. It's the same thing. I kind of like put it to the back burner and I'm like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I had one post that went, I think, 4 million.
Oh, nice.
And it was random. We did a brand collab with a wine company. And it was me sitting on top of the bar, and it's all my content. So they, depending on what their budget is, like Bed Bath & Beyond, they have a crew com, but they would let me do whatever I wanted to do. And I was sitting on the bar, and maybe I had a little bit more, I don't do cleavage, but I did have like a kind of a top that went a little lower.
Right.
And maybe the position of it, I'm trying to study the picture, and I'm like, how did this take off?
You'll never know.
And I'll never know. And I looked at the hashtags, and it seemed all like fine. The one time that I noticed that it did take off was when I wrote hashtag sexy bedroom. And all of a sudden, this was years ago, I got all these like followers from Russia.
Oh.
And I'm like, but it was like so random. And I'm like, how did this even happen? It was like hashtag sexy bedroom. And then I got all this like, I'm like, this is so weird. Why Russia and why that? Like, that's the only thing that I wrote different. So every post, I'm like, sexy this, sexy bedroom, sexy living room. I'm like, it didn't work. It was just like that one fluke,
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, now they're saying that hashtags like don't even matter.
I know. So it's like the whole thing with
the
the reels, and the reels are what's kind of like taking off. But then it's like a whole thing. I just like I want to post a picture and go.
I know.
I
can't.
I know.
Like, now that I know that I have to
headache.
Go full force again with this podcast, I'm like, oh Jesus, take the wheel. But at least it's easy.
But now they have the templates, which are fun. You kind of pick the music that's trending. And,
it's fine. Yeah, but it is a lot. Like it's a lot, especially when you have other things that are going on that are making you money. It's really hard to focus on this other thing that is so important that can actually bring even better potential to your other your other businesses. So it's just like, but it's hard. And like for me, that's the thing, is like the lack of control. Yeah. And like I'm working so hard on something that I have absolutely no control over the success. I mean, I have control over making the content good. Yeah. But
yeah. And what you put out there. Right. And that's all you could hope for. That's it.
All that you could hope for.
Yeah.
Social media.
Wait.
So when do you start to, obviously, like you said, you have these 7 verticals. So like when do the licensing deals start to come, and when do you start making your own products?
So that the licensing stuff happened years ago. After the show, there was an Italian company that came and they were like, would you like to do a lighting line with us? And they were pretty prominent. We went to the trade, Milan trade show. The Salone was amazing.
I'm dying to go.
Yeah, it's freaking incredible. And you get so inspired. Even if you're not into it, you just get so inspired because it's just like so much creativity and products that are so innovative and so forward. So my product, my lighting line that I sketched to paper, and it came to life, and they launched it, and it was amazing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I really love this. Like, this is like a big deal. This is when my product is going to start to reach the masses. And this is like the whole Latina Martha Stewart. This is exactly where the trajectory of my business. This is exactly where I was headed towards. And then from there, after the show, I got a licensing agent that was willing to do a percentage on the products that I bring in. So I didn't have to pay him a retainer like a publicist. He just closes the deal, does a contract, and then he gets a percentage, which works.
Right. Okay.
And there's no loss. And he goes out and he goes to the trade shows, and he's essentially, he pitches me. He has a deck, he has a brand book, and he pitches my, she's Latin, she's this, what sets her apart is that she does this, and so he does the whole spiel.
Great.
Yeah.
That
so you don't have to really sell yourself, right? I'm like, I'll give you 20% all day long.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I mean, especially like these deals typically are substantial for the most part.
Absolutely.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So it seems that you have the business.
Yeah.
You have the TV stuff. You've got the licensing. You've got all the different products that you're working on. And then what's missing is family. Yeah. So you have... Obviously, I know you're married. You just had a baby. So for how long were you like wishing and hoping for those things, or were you always just kind of laser focused on it and it just happened?
So I was actually previously married. And I felt like, my career was so important. That's all I cared about. And I was a little selfish in that respect.
Yeah.
But, I knew that there was a path that was higher and brighter, and I had to like go for it and whatever it took. So when I was single, I didn't mind because I wasn't focused on finding love. I was focusing on being in love with what I do.
Yep, I get that.
So there was a different level of like fulfillment in that, right? And then once when I was settled with, being in love with what I wanted, then it was like, okay, I'm ready. And it wasn't even that I was ready because my husband Bobby came in the most random time. But when he found me and I found him, I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
So
How'd you meet him?
Randomly at a restaurant bar. My girlfriend and I were planning our itinerary to Italy, and we were having some mojitos after work on Friday. And I see my friend who's a builder, and he's like, hey, I'm waiting for my friend Bobby. And I've always heard about this Bobby because I actually walked his house when he was building it with the builder because it was his friend. And I gave him some pointers. And then I'm like, oh, that Bobby? And he's like, yeah. So, my friend gets a little drunk and Bobby walks in. He's like, I'm not babysitting tonight. I'm leaving. Hi, my name's Bobby. And I'm like, oh, my name's Vanessa DeLeon. Nice to meet you. He's like, yeah, I know who you are. And he had a book on his coffee table that I was in. And my cleaning lady happened to be his cleaning lady. And she would always say, did you design this Greek guy's house on the waterfront? He has your coffee, their coffee table book. This book right here, the one on my coffee table. And I'm like, maybe he brought the books at Barnes and Nobles. I don't know, but I never did. I don't know any Greek young,
And also,
young hot guy
does she
on the
really
water.
think that you would put your book in
on his coffee
house?
table?
Like,
I don't know, but she's like, it's just a weird coincidence, and the style is like your style, and he has good taste, So, she didn't know. She's like, este libro aquí mismo, and I'm like, I know the book, but maybe he brought it at the store. I don't know, So I just felt like, isn't it so weird how like we had so many common, people around us, like kind of brought us together. My cleaning lady, my good friend who's a builder. And from there, I'm like, he left and I'm like, oh, he didn't like buy me a drink or anything. And I was like, and I had a mutual friend and I was like, I asked her, I'm like, what's the deal with Bobby? And she's like, I have no idea. I haven't seen him in a while. And she texts him. And she's like, oh, I heard you met my friend. And I'm like, and he was like, yeah, I did. Put in a good word for me. But he didn't seem.
He didn't flirt.
Yeah. And I'm like, I think that's why I liked him.
Right, of course.
I was like, he didn't
of the
seem
lack
interested.
Of outward interest.
Yeah. He didn't seem interested. I love this guy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Love him.
So she ends up, she's like, no, you do it. And she gives him my phone number. And then, weeks later, he calls me. He didn't message me. He calls me. He's like, hey, you want to go out to Del Posto at the time?
Yeah.
And we literally got there at 8:00 and we closed the place down. And we've been inseparable ever since.
Oh my gosh. How many years ago did you get married?
So we got married in 2014. Okay. And we met in 2011.
Together a long time.
Yeah. We met at 11/11.
11/11.
November the 11th.
I love that.
Yeah.
And how you have one child?
One boy, and he's 6 years old, and he's the light of our life.
Oh, so fun.
Yeah.
And then you just throw mom in the picture, and that's also a full-time job.
Complete full-time job, and I'm present. So he comes with me to job sites every once in a while. He'll come with me to, meet a client. I'm very much, he's like part of the team.
Yeah. How do you think motherhood changed the way that you run your businesses?
Well, I got to say the one shift that definitely happened in the business is that I put him first before my clients. That's the only shift. I would always put everybody else in front of my clients or my work. Telly is the only person that I put first. So, I'm trying to do more of this like work-life balance. And when I used to hear this word work-life balance, I'm like, who has a work-life balance? You have a business, you got to hustle, and it was always about like, that's a silly thing to say. But now that I have a son and he's like my priority, it is true. Like I put him first. So if I'm in the middle of like pumpkin picking and I have a client that's freaking out because the swatch of the paint wasn't what they expected, on a Sunday at 3:00, like I don't even want to entertain that because it's just going to ruin my day.
Right.
And I'm like with my son. Right. So I put him first in those situations. And then when I'm back to work on, Monday morning at 8:00, you're going to, you'll get a response from me.
Right.
So I've had these boundaries now that I never did prior to having Telly. So now these boundaries are set a little bit, even though like, maybe I'll come home and be like, hey, yeah, that's a little beige. Let me see what I can do, in the
Right.
middle of the night. But I try to put those boundaries in place.
Yeah. So important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, like, when you do see those text messages, do you let them kind of ruin your day or
Not
like,
anymore.
No.
And I used to.
Yeah.
Like,
'Cause
that
it's hard to
stuff
like
used
even
sit
see
with
it. Like
me.
it's one
Yeah,
thing to
yeah,
see
yeah.
it and like move because I do that. Like, right. Like I see it because I am like very big on work-life balance and like having my boundaries, but I still have my phone. Right.
Yeah.
So like, and I do see it, but instead like I'll ruminate all day. I
Yeah.
won't answer it.
Yeah. But it
But I'll
sits with
ruminate
you
all day.
It sits with you.
Yeah. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, it would have been better if I just answered sometimes, you know, like it would have just
totally.
been.
And then you have like this weird gut.
Oh, and then you're
Feeling all
regretting,
day,
like you're going
and
to
you're
bed
like-
on
yeah, yeah.
Sunday night, like, oh, I got to deal with this shit
And you're
on
like,
Monday.
do I have an ulcer now?
Yeah,
Because
do I
of
have an
it.
ulcer?
So
Yes, but it's
like
probably
those
not from
things.
that. It's probably the 9 million other things that happen.
But that it piles on, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like those, weeding out those layers. And I try not to have them anymore. And I really have my project managers step in and step up.
Yeah.
So I'm not always the one that they're going to. I only want to go there when I really the fire is like spread out of control. And I really have to step in with massive like hoses, like, so if they can't have the fire blanket or their fire extinguisher, then I have to come in there with the big hose and then I do it and they're fine.
Yeah.
As long as they hear from me, you kind of pacify them and then, move on.
Yeah. What are you dreaming of these days?
It's so funny. Like, I feel like I'm living a dream every day. And I'm so grateful. And I'm always like sitting in gratitude. And I pray every night. I'm not like super religious. I don't go to church every day, but I am, Catholic or Greek Orthodox now. But I pray all the time. Mm-hmm. And I do Our Father, Hail Mary, and I list all the things that I'm grateful for, and I pray for everybody who's important and the world, like everything that's happening in our world. Like I pray for just like peace and love. Like I know it sounds like so cheesy, but I live in such a fantasy that I'm like, I always, it's always a pinch me moment.
Yeah.
And I hate to say this because again, going back to fear, it's like, how can everything be so perfect? Right? And then you're like, let me get out of this. What I don't even want to manifest because like what you put out is what you get, right? So I try so hard to not even have the thoughts go there, but I'm in gratitude all the time.
Right. They actually say sometimes like manifesting can be just as bad as it is good for some people,
right.
Because if you put all your energy into something and it doesn't actually happen, it could be more detrimental than
right.
it is to like actually start. But you seem to have manifested a lot of the things that have happened into your life. Like, so you clearly are like an energetic person, but not for lack of like a ton of hard work, like you're incredibly successful, still super young. You have so much more of your life and your career
right.
ahead of you.
Right.
And you've already crossed so many things off of your bucket list.
Yeah.
So like what's the next thing? Like what's the next big thing?
The next big thing is more product. Like that's where I'm headed. I just signed with an amazing rug company called Art Hide. It's more hospitality and commercial rugs. They do these beautiful hides that are dyed and designed and fabricated so beautifully. We're just now launching the 3rd generation of my lighting line with Calca and Allegri, which is amazing. I'm doing another deal with a tile company and just like, getting into the furniture world. I have my own product line that I just gifted you some beautiful things. It's all based around spirituality. And it's called Home, like HOM, like Om. So there's a nod to spirituality and crystal healing, and the candles all are crystal, and they all have meaning. And even the line itself, it's all based around like astrology and crystals and just goodness.
Yeah.
And I also believe, this is like such a big belief that I've always kind of like, this is my number one. Your vibe attracts your tribe.
100.
And you need to be surrounded with people that are like-minded and want and truly want the best for you, and weed out the people that don't have those intentions, because you feel it in your gut. You feel it in your core. Just weed out the fat. Yeah. And those people, like, your vibe really attracts the tribe that you're surrounded with.
How do you weed people out?
In a nice way. There's a lot of, I also believe in your energy, right? My aura is always very bright. I kind of like again, I study that. Like I know like when I have good light, And people are attracted to that energy.
100%.
Whether you want it or not, people gravitate. I can't tell you how many times I'm in Home Goods and I'm like in sweatpants and a sweatshirt. And people are like, hey, hi, do you think this looks good? I'm like, if they only knew that I was a designer. You know what I mean? It's like the craziest thing. And I'm not even, I have a baseball cap on. It's like, I don't even look the part. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't even tell you how many times that happens. And I ask my friends, when you go to Home Goods, do people ask you these questions? And they're like, no, that's never happened to me. It's something about your aura that
when you know you're truly magnetic.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, it also brings in the people that don't necessarily have bad intentions. They're just maybe energetically, they're not fulfilled. And then all that stuff sticks to your energy. And I know it sounds like hokey pokey stuff, but it absolutely is true.
Yeah.
So you want to surround yourself with the same vibration of people, because if you're surrounded with that vibration that just doesn't like harmonize with you and doesn't have that same like, it's like music. I love music. I love DJs, like I love it's that balance. It's that, you have to have that same flow. If you're like, over here at a 10 and you have somebody else at a 5, the harmony is not there.
Yeah.
So it's like balancing with the same group of people that, whatever. So how do I get rid of those people? There are a lot of people that have come into my life and then they want to stick. And I feel that energy, and I never say, hey, I'm not going to call you back. But you kind of do it like you do like when you're dating.
Yeah,
like
just the slow fade.
Hey, yeah, actually I'm busy and, it's crazy times. Like I always make time for the people that matter, right? And just like if you're interested in a guy or a girl, you're going to make yourself available.
If he wants to, he will. If she wants to, she will.
That's right. So it's like the same concept. You don't do it in a bad way. You don't like break up with somebody on a Post-it. You just gradually they'll get the picture.
Yeah.
That's how I do it.
No, I get that. It's, I feel like at every stage of your life, there's kind of like times where you have to just clear out the stable a little bit. And it's always like a difficult thing. And it's like a lot of people are having questions like friendship breakups. Like anytime I do like any type of ask me anything, I've had like some friendship breakups in my life. And it's one of the more difficult things that you have to do.
Yeah.
But I think that it is something that is so important. And I think too, is like, in these types of friendship breakups, as they call them, like doesn't necessarily mean that like one person is better than the other person. It just means that like two people are growing at two different,
just like in a relationship, same thing.
Two different speeds, and like maybe one day we can also like bring it back together again, and maybe I will slow fade you back in.
Yes, and maybe their vibration has finally is at the same vibration. You're like, all right, they're doing things, and have you noticed like the people who are like really sort of toxic within their own life, right? They could be the best people. They have the good intentions. They put you first and they have these great intentions, but there's toxicity that they're dealing with demons. And you have to learn, and every family can have that, right? You could have like family members or whatever, but you have to learn how to really just like tune that out and just be like zen within yourself, because all that stuff sticks. And then you just become exactly what you don't want to become, right? So you want to better yourself, or maybe you didn't have a good, upbringing and your mom was abusive, your dad was abusive. Well, now that you're going to be a mom, like what not to do. And it's kind of the same thing. And so that's how I treat relationships.
Yeah, I like that. Any advice for the women that are trying to do it all like you are?
I got to say, my sister-in-law, she is a rock star. She has spinal bifida. She just suffered 2 heart attacks last year. And now she's diagnosed with leiomyosarcoma. So she has cancer on top of everything that she's dealt with. She really, to me, is an inspiration. She's an account attorney. She worked for Deloitte for many years, and now she works for my husband's business, which they're kind of like partners. She's a CFO of the Brownstone Pancake Factory, right? She's like this mega woman that's dealing with all this stuff. And I look at her and I'm like, how can I ever think that what I'm doing is like too much, right? When she's going through all that.
Yeah.
So that's why I always say, if you're physically able, willing, like you can literally do it all.
Yeah.
There's no excuse. And there's so many people that have excuse. You're healthy.
Yeah.
Like just do it.
No, it's true. My grandmother, I'm the firstborn in my whole family, so I guess my grandmother got all the things that like a first-time grandmother would get. And she had this book of like, kind of like a baby book for me. And when she passed away, I got the book, and in it, she said, like, if you had one wish for your grandchild, what would it be? And she wrote for health and happiness, because when you have those, you can conquer all.
Oh, right.
And it's true, you know, like it really is true. That is the most important thing. Like if we don't have our health, we don't have anything.
That's right.
And same thing for happiness. And I take that as like mental happiness,
right.
right? Like if you're stuck behind a gray cloud, you're not going to be able to move forward into any of those things.
Yeah, because you end up using those things as like the crutch for everything, right? That's your excuse. Mm-hmm. So just because you got laid off, or because like maybe
someone
your relationship,
broke up with you,
it's a recent relationship. There's so many things to look forward to, just because you within yourself have to love yourself, number one. And number two, if you're healthy and able, like you can conquer whatever you want. I'm a testament to that.
Yeah.
For
sure. And number three, rejection is protection, people. Just
remember
I
like that. I like that.
It's
I'm going
to
use that.
Rejection is protection. Okay, last question.
Yeah.
If you could choose one word for your character to be remembered by, what would it be?
Righteous.
Ooh, right away.
Yeah.
What is that word like? What does that mean to you?
So, my cousin Rich used to always say this word. He's an incredible entrepreneur, and he, to me, he's always my mentor. And he would always say that word. And I remember when his dad passed away, my uncle's really close. He would say he's a righteous man. And I'm like, yeah, Rich is a righteous man. And just all the things, right? You're loyal, you're respected, you do good things for others. You take care of your friends, your family. You never backstab, you never talk about people. Like, that's a righteous person. And I feel like I have all those attributes.
Yeah.
And not many people can have that. And not many people know how to be all that.
Yeah.
So I think that righteous is just a perfect word.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing
your
story. I know you're going to continue to do big, epic things. I know that it's like not in your personality, just like, be at home running Vanessa DeLeon Associates. I know that you're going to be like back on the billboard.
That sounds great. Well, you just want to rest.
But I know that's not in you. I know that's not in you. I know we're going to be seeing your face on a billboard somewhere. Like, I hope I'm manifesting like your own show. Like you need like some sort of a show just to like show the inner workings of that industry, but also like to show a woman that like truly is doing it all, and to show us that like you can have it all.
You can.
You 100% can.
You can.
So that's what I'm manifesting for you.
Thank you.
Where can everybody find you on the internet?
So under VanessaDeLeon.com, and then VDA_designs on Instagram, and yes, TikTok.
You're on TikTok?
Yeah.
Okay. I know. I'm venturing in as well. So I'll see you on the dark side.
I'll see you there.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye, guys.